The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look at my soul. I've been afraid I would follow alone. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Welcome into a Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. If you're in the market for a brand new or slightly used automobile, before you make the decision, make the commitment, if you will, to purchase that brand new automobile or slightly used automobile, you need to check out the good folks at Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. They have a great sales department, fantastic finance department, and an unbelievably good sales or a service department. Add it all up, sales, finance, and service, and you've got yourself one heck of a good dealership. And I just will continue to say, before you make that commitment, and it is a commitment, especially if you're borrowing money to purchase a brand new car or a slightly used car. It's a heck of a commitment. Before you make that commitment, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your bank accounts to check out the good folks at Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. They will put you in a brand new car or a slightly used car, and it won't destroy your budget, let me tell you. All right, we're with you till 3 o'clock, taking your phone calls on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline, 330-886-0813. That's 330-886-0813. All right, so the Lakers were in Atlanta. Now, this isn't local, but I'm going to tie it into something local here, so follow me. We normally don't talk about teams like the Los Angeles Lakers or the Atlanta Hawks, but this is going to be tied into something local. So hear me out for this for a second. LeBron James gets into a to-do with a couple of fans sitting near the court side. Apparently, Atlanta is allowing fans into their arena, and a couple of fans said their piece to LeBron James. They both got thrown out of the establishment. After the ball game was over, LeBron pretty much said, neither one of them should have been thrown out. I mean, it was just, banter back and forth. One of the participants was the wife of a fan, and he called her a Karen, which I thought was kind of hilarious. But I'm going to tie this all in now to something local. And I think that all of us, whether you've gone to a high school game, you've gone to a college game at the university at Youngstown State, or maybe you go see one of the major league teams, whether it be the Indians, the Pirates, the Browns, the Steelers, the Cavaliers, the Penguins, Pittsburgh, of course. You will find yourself sitting next to someone who is, shall we say, obnoxious with his or her language toward the particular player, mainly the visiting player. They don't normally say such garbage to the home player unless, of course, the home player is really screwing up. I've always said that just because you purchase a ticket does not give you the right to say anything that you want or do anything that you want. The price of the ticket is for you to enjoy the particular game, but not to do anything that is going to be deemed obnoxious or foul language or anything of that nature. And I find myself in an interesting situation because, I'm like you. I've gone to many, many games as a fan. I've gone to plenty of games, even when I was in broadcasting, and 5 years now. I've gone to plenty games, not working per se, not covering the game for a radio station, a company, or something of that nature. I've gone to plenty of games as a fan, even though I work in the industry. I've, for the most part, watched my P's and Q's. Now, when I was younger, obviously that's a little different story, but, when we all grow up, we kind of watch our P's and Q's and whatnot. I find myself in the last 20 or 30 years being a hell of a lot more respectful for the visiting team. And even if they have a really, horrible human being, or at least horrible in the sports standpoint, you're not going to do so much trash talking in the stands. And like I said, I've gone to plenty of games when I'm not working, and I've seen a number of people that believe, well, I paid for this ticket, I can do anything I want to. You see, the reality is, no, that's not the case. Now, sadly, I'm seeing a little bit more of this seeping into the high school level. Look, that's one thing if you're going into the pros, okay, that's part of, I mean, it's wrong. Wrong is wrong, but it's part of the payback, for lack of a better word. If you're going to get paid millions upon millions of dollars, or even if you're paid the league minimum in sports, which is mid six figures, pretty good chunk of change to make a living. It's a pretty good chunk of change. You're going to put up with certain things. And I can understand that on the pro level, okay. I mean, I don't agree with it, but I can understand it. On the college level and the high school level, yeah, I got a big problem with that. I got a really big problem with that. First of all, if you're doing it on the high school level, you're pretty much doing this to a kid. You're pretty much doing this to someone who's not even an adult yet. I mean, that's seriously wrong. And if you're doing it in college, really? I don't get that. And there's a little bit more of that now. Maybe with the advent of social media and a bunch of things where everyone can say whatever they want to say without any retribution. And then some people figure, okay, well, if I can do that, well, I can go to a ball game and I can pretty much act out what I would normally do on social media. And sometimes you find out you're not going to be able to do that. And you're seeing a little bit more of this more and more in sports. And I got to be honest, I don't know where people came up with the idea that I spent my hard-earned money on this ticket, so I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Yeah, no, that's not the case. Not the case. And I really hope at some point in time it stops. Especially now that it's seeping in some ways on the high school level as well. It just really needs to stop. So we can talk a little bit about that. If maybe I'm wrong on this. I've gone as a fan, and I've also gone as a broadcaster hearing the fans. Now in high school, it's more geared toward the officials, which is another story in and of itself. That is, and now as I have become an umpire, I don't want to say that I'm sensitive to any of that, because the reality is it's always been wrong. The bigger thing is, now that I hear a lot more of it, I hearken back to something that a friend of mine said years and years and years ago, which is, don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. I went to I went to a game recently where I wasn't working at YSN. I was mainly just going to the game to look and see how how this team is progressing. There's a number of teams that I like to see when I'm not working at YSN. So I went to a game to see how this team that I'm following was progressing, and during the game I'm hearing people just mercilessly going after the officials. And part of me wanted to sit back and say, we do have a shortage in officiating. And it would be great if some of you, instead of acting like you obviously know the entire rule book, maybe some of you should, I don't know, take a class, get some extra money. I mean, you clearly know the rules, so let's see you get on the floor and officiate a game and make some money along the way and help out for a good cause. Of course, you don't want to say that because then you look like a buffoon when people, look at you and say, well, I have the right to do this. Well, yeah, you do, but do you really want to? Seriously? Do you really want to? 330-886-0813. The older I get, the more I'm intolerant of certain things. And last night, maybe it set me off a little bit. And again, I'm a big fan of LeBron James, always will be a big fan of LeBron James, even though he's a two-time former Cavalier, and I don't ever want to see him in a Cavs uniform again. I mean, he was there twice, did what he did. He'll go down in history as one of the greatest to ever play basketball. But last night, when maybe it's because I've seen more than my fair share of this type of behavior. It was good to see that happen where the fans were escorted away from the game. It was good to see that that was taken care of. But by the same token, someone probably needs to, one of the commissioners, or basically have a conversation where, just because you purchased a ticket to a sporting event does not give you the right to do some of the things that are done in this sporting event. And last night was just, and I wanted to tie it in locally because, unfortunately, whether you're going to one of our professional teams regionally, we used to have a professional minor league baseball team. Now it's going to be a draft league team, which technically they're not professionals yet, but they're going to be. It's going to be a fun league, by the way. And then you got Youngstown State, and now you have a high school. And you go to some games, and unfortunately, sometimes you're hearing that same colorful language or the same back and forth talking with kids on the floor or on the field or on the diamond. It's just stop. Ridiculous. All right. Last night, high school basketball, Lisbon knocked off by Columbiana 70-40. Good victory by the Clippers last night. Howland a winner over Liberty 73-51. Harding got a big win over Warrensville Heights 66-40. Girard 14 better than Lakeview 59-45. Springfield a 1-point win against Mineral Ridge 39-38. Struthers 9 better than Hubbard 40-31. So congratulations to Struthers, Columbiana, Howland, Harding, Girard, and Springfield for their victories last night. On the other side of the border, Justin Magestro picked up his 200th career victory. Kennedy Catholic rolled over Reynolds 81-33. One of, as a matter of fact, the coach's daughter is now playing basketball. I believe this is her freshman year over at Youngstown State University. Kennedy Catholic, known for its basketball, both boys and girls. Oof. Some really, really good basketball on the other end of the other side of the border in western Pennsylvania up in Mercer County. All right, 330-886-0813, the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business. Coming up at 1 o'clock today, we will chat with Vindicator and Tribune Tribune Chronicle sports editor Doug Chapin will get his conversation on the upcoming girls tournament. The guys are going to be doing their drawing on Sunday. Anthony and I yesterday, hopefully you heard the show yesterday, we talked a little bit about the girls tournament, who to watch, who could make some serious noise as the tournament will start officially next Saturday with the Division I sectionals. Boardman is going to be at Louisville, and Canfield will be hosting Hudson. The rest of the action is going to get underway on Wednesday, February the 17th. That's 2 weeks from tomorrow. D2, D3, and D4 sectional first round games. A bunch of teams in action, and we will undoubtedly have a bunch of those games on YSN as the tournaments get into full gear 2 weeks from Wednesday on February the 17th. But 2 games as the tournaments officially get underway next Saturday, February the 13th. Boardman is at Louisville, a couple of YSN schools. And then Canfield will be hosting Hudson, and we'll have those games. And then the tournaments get really ramped up in earnest 2 weeks from Saturday as the D2, D3, and D4 sectional tournaments get underway. We made mention that it was late in the show, but I'll make mention of it now, then we'll take our first break. Bowling, we will have the Division II sectional girls tournament next Sunday morning. I should say this Sunday morning, February the 7th. This Sunday morning, 9 a.m. at the Freeway Lanes in Warren. Ursuline, Struthers, Hubbard, Girard, Camel, Liberty, LeBray, Kennedy, Brookfield, Lowellville, McDonald, Lordstown, and Crestview are among the long list of teams that are going to be involved in the sectional girls bowling tournament at Freeway Lanes in Warren this coming Sunday at 9 a.m. Now, the top 4 teams and the top 4 individuals will then move on to the district. And then the Division II sectional girls, some of these other teams up in Trumbull County will take place at Freeway Lanes in Warren on Sunday at 2 p.m. These teams include Lakeview, Champion, Maplewood, Chalker, and Bloomfield, amongst some other teams scattered about Portage and Lake counties. The top 3 teams and the top 3 individuals will advance to the district. That's the D2 sectionals for the girls at Freeway Lanes in Warren. On Monday, the D2 sectionals for the boys at Freeway Lanes in Warren. That is going to be Ursuline, Struthers, Hubbard, Girard, Camel, Liberty, LeBray, JFK, Brookfield, Lowellville, McDonald, Lordstown, Heartland Christian, and Crestview, amongst a ton of teams, where the top 4 teams and the top 4 individuals will go on to the district tournament. And then later that day, some teams up in Trumbull County, Lakeview, Champion, Maplewood, Chalker, amongst teams in Portage and in Lake counties, will take part in the other sectional boys tournament. That's going to be at 2 p.m. on Monday, February the 8th. By the way, the earlier one will start at 9 a.m. In the 2 p.m. Sector, the top 3 teams and individuals will go on to the district. Friday, February the 12th, the Division I girls sectional. This will take place at the Amarin Lanes. Now, the time is not quite exact. It's either going to start at 9 a.m. or 1:30 p.m. on Friday, February the 12th. This list includes Fitch, Harding, Boardman, Howland, Canfield, and Niles. amongst a ton of teams that are going to be involved in this. Top 3 teams and the top 3 individuals are going to go to the district. And then on Sunday, Valentine's Day, either at 9 a.m. or 1:30 p.m., the boys sectional in Division I will take place at the Ameren Lanes in Canfield. Fitch, Harding, Boardman, Howland, Canfield, Niles, amongst a bunch of teams. Top 3 teams and the top 3 individuals will advance to the district. So that's the bowling tournament that's coming up starting February the 6th, D2 boys, and February the 7th with D2 sectional girls. It should be an awful lot of fun. Swimming and diving will get underway. One group includes Fitch, Harding, Boardman, Howland, and Canfield. Now, this is boys and girls, so Howland is not D1 in boys, but they are in girls. Canfield is not D1 in diving, but they are in girls. So the Division I sectional diving, boys and girls in Massillon, Perry, Fitch, Harding, and Boardman, both the boys and the girls. The Howland girls and the Canfield girls will be involved in the D1 sectional diving tournament next Wednesday, February the 10th at Massillon, Perry. Next Thursday, Division I sectional swimming. This will be the Canton sectional, and this will all be at Worcester. This will include Fitch, Boardman, and the Canfield girls. Fitch, Boardman, and the Canfield girls. On Friday, February the 12th, Division II sectional. This is the Akron district. These will all take place at Worcester. Why they got to go all the way to Worcester is beyond me. I mean, that's a hell of a trip. Be that as it may, next Friday, February the 12th, here are the list of teams. The Canfield boys, Cardinal Mooney, Poland, South Range, West Branch, Salem, Western Reserve, Columbiana, Crestview, and Mineral Ridge. This is the Division II sectionals. The Akron district, it will all be at Worcester. Now, the other Division II sectional on Friday, February the 12th, this is the Spire district. This will be held up in Geneva, the Spire Institute. This will include the Howland boys, Hubbard, Lakeview, Liberty, Girard, Brookfield, McDonald, and Pymatuning Valley. Now, on Saturday, February the 13th, Division I sectional, this is the Akron district at Worcester. Harding is going to be there. Now, the divisional sectional in Mayfield, this is the Mayfield district, the Howland girls are going over there. Now, Howland and Warren, what are they, 10 minutes apart? How the hell is one going to one district and the other going to the other district? That's weird. But the Howland girls are going to be going to the Divisional I sectional, the Mayfield district. This sectional will be at the Spire Institute up in Geneva, while the Harding boys and girls, and this is swimming, not diving, the swimming sectionals in the Akron district, the swimming sectionals are going to be at Worcester. So the Harding boys and girls have to go to Worcester. The Howland girls, because the boys team is Division II, the Howland girls have to go up to Geneva. Crazy. All right, 330-886-0813, the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business. We'll take a time out. When we come back, I want your phone calls. When is enough, or where is the line for a fan when it comes to trash talking? Where is the line? And is the line the same place in the pros as it would be in high school. So I got to believe if you're going to a game and you're talking all kinds of nonsense in a high school event, that just doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't. I mean, those are kids. They're not paid athletes. And I think that most people that are going to high school games, they're not doing that. It's more toward the officiating and them not doing their job, or at least it's allegedly they're not doing their job. I hearken back to what I said about 10 or 15 minutes ago. And I'm not saying this because I'm now an umpire. I'm saying this that I realized 3 years ago, I realized that the Mahoning Valley has an officiating shortage. It has a really, really bad shortage of officials, and it's only going to get worse, and I hate to do this, but it's the truth. Most of the officials are older than I am, and I'm in my mid-50s. Most of the officials doing this on the varsity level and whatnot, they're older than I am. So there is a shortage of officiating in all sports that's only going to get progressively worse as the days and the years go further down the road because, well, you're already dealing with umpires and referees and officials that are in their 60s, late 50s, 60s, and beyond. It's only going to get worse. So 3 years ago, I made the decision, instead of barking at officials and saying, "Oh man, you guys really screwed this call up," I decided to become a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Now, I'm not saying that it's wrong to bark at the officials. I mean, look, if they blew a call, they blow a call. But this just in, the officials aren't perfect. Even when you get to the major leagues, whether it be baseball, the National Football League, the NBA, the NHL, nobody's perfect. Now the mistakes are far fewer. But instead of being part of the problem or part of the people that bark about the officiating, I don't know, why don't you go take an officiating class and get extra money by officiating a game? I guarantee you, you'll really be surprised at the knowledge that you'll get. I consider myself to be pretty good when it comes to the game of baseball. I consider my knowledge to be pretty damn good, if I do say so myself. And even when I went into the umpiring classes, I was just like, okay. Now I kind of sort of understand where this particular thing is. Oh, now I understand why this call is made this way. And okay. So, but this whole thing started, and I wanted to put it into a local perspective. Last night, in case you missed it, a couple of people from Atlanta were thrown out of the arena when they started jawing with LeBron James. Now, in fairness, LeBron after the game said, no big deal. I kind of missed the back and forth with the fans. They didn't deserve to be thrown out, but it did get a little heated. And when there's only 1,000 or 2,000 fans, in a normal atmosphere, you wouldn't hear any of this. With 15,000, 20,000 people screaming and whatnot, you would not hear the conversation. But if you only have 1,000 or 2,000 people there, clearly you can hear what's being said. You can hear what's going on. And, if you say the magic word or you say something wrong, you get booted. I remember as a teenager, I was in Cleveland, and I think it was in the early 80s. I took my father to Cleveland. It was his 50th birthday. I took him to an Indians game. And Mike Hargrove was at bat, and there was a season ticket holder. He was behind the plate at the old Municipal Stadium. And back then, the Indians, they were pretty bad. So if you had, I don't know, 5,000, 10,000 people at the stadium to watch this product, it was considered a success. Unless the Yankees were in town, then you get a boatload of people. But on this particular day, it was a day game. So I'm thinking there was probably in the vicinity of 8,000 to 10,000 people there. Well, this guy was just barking at Hargrove the entire game. And he must have said something out of bounds or off limits. And that is one of the many, many things that needs to be defined in today's day and age. But Hargrove called time and went right back behind home plate. Now, obviously, there's a screen, a foul ball screen, and he was jawing at this guy. And if there was not a screen there, this would have probably been a rather ugly situation. But, like I said, last night I wanted to tie this in locally. And I'm just wondering, as a fan, when you go to a game, do you believe that by paying the cost of that ticket, you can pretty much say whatever you want to say? I'm curious about that. I honestly think that that's not the case. I think that you are allowed to, within reason, you should be allowed to do that. And look, and bantering that's trash talking, it's no big deal. But you got to make sure that you're not stepping over a particular line. And in today's day and age, I see people stepping over that line far more frequently. And frankly, it's a little disturbing. All right, 330-886-0813, the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline, open for business. We'll take a timeout, be back with more. It is a Tuesday edition of Running Point, presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. We're back in a bit.
New things happen all day. Some are good, some not so good. In today's complicated world, while you're busy working, playing, and living life, we're busy helping you make sense of the day's news. And there's only one place where it comes together with clarity, context, and accountability. It's 21 News at 6 with me, Madison Tromler, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 6. It's what the day's news really means to you.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Hi, this is Jim Myers with Myers Family Insurance, your local Medicare and retirement resource. We're excited to have sports back. Whether you're on the field or cheering from the stands, sports unifies communities and brings hope for the future. We're all one team working together. At Myers Family Insurance, we know the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is October 15th through December 7th. Now's the time to make sure your plan continues to meet your needs for the upcoming year.
Call today.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
When looking for home design inspiration, don't just be inspired, be Baird inspired. Whether new or remodeling, Baird Brothers has the latest trends like shiplap to refresh your home. Go from inspiration to installation with our wide selection of in-stock American hardwoods. From the rustic charm of antique oak to the warmth of traditional cherry, Baird Brothers has what you need to make your home inspiring. Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Running Point, presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business, 330-886-0813. That's 330-886-0813. When we had Dana Balish on yesterday, I saw that the Curbstone coaches have postponed their Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Second consecutive year that they have postponed this ceremony due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The weekly meetings on Mondays, that's going to be starting up again in September. My goodness. The class of 2020, I should say, is now going to be inducted on May the 1st, 2022. That is the date for the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and that would be the class of 2020. I don't even know if they're going to have a class of 2021 or 2022. I mean, this has just been a crazy last year and change. Hopefully, we get some relief here pretty soon. It was good to see that Austintown Fitch has put together their baseball schedule, and knock on wood, hopefully we get some baseball this year, as Austintown Fitch has a boatload of baseball games starting on Saturday, March the 27th, and concluding on Thursday, May the 13th. So a bunch of games, and again, I look forward to the start of the baseball season. Not going to be too long. It's not going to be much longer. And again, now that the calendar is flipped to February, and it is Groundhog Day, and I don't think I'm being a spoiler alert, Punxsutawney Phil saw his shadow today, so 6 more weeks of winter, apparently. Not that the groundhog is right all the time, but apparently he did see his shadow, so 6 weeks of winter. I'm amused by the folks that dress up in the top hats in Punxsutawney, and they're still doing that to this day. That's pretty cool. So anyway, 330-886-0813, the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business. One of the things I want to definitely talk with Vindicator and Tribune Chronicle sports editor Doug Chapin when we get him on. And we'll have Rob Schmidt on as well on Wednesday. We'll get Rob on. Youngstown State dropped a pair to Detroit. Detroit Mercy is on a 5-game winning streak. They started out the season winless in the Horizon League. They have now won 5 games in a row. They're 5-5 in the Horizon League, 6-8 overall. YSU, which before the season started, Youngstown State was picked to be finished in second place in the Horizon League. Now, in fairness, a lot of things have gone wrong. A lot of things have gone wrong this year. The Penguins are 4-10 on the campaign. They are 8-10 overall. You're down to your final 6 games in the Horizon League. Youngstown State will play their final 2 road games of the regular season schedule. They will go outside of Pittsburgh as they take on Robert Morris, who is 2-7 in the league, 3-9 overall. It's been a really, really tough year for the Colonials. Youngstown State will take on Robert Morris, and then they're back home. 4 games to remain. I know they're playing IUPUI, who's currently 3-7 in the league, 4-7 overall. Purdue Fort Wayne, 5-9 in the league, 6-9 overall. So the Penguins, they would have to win all 6 of their remaining games just to finish at 10 wins and 10 losses. Now, clearly, when this season is over, the NCAA determined that this was a mulligan year. In other words, anyone who wanted to come back from seniors, anyone who wanted to come back, you would be given a redo. The freshmen would be given a redo in their freshman year. So essentially, they're not really freshmen. They're second-year freshmen. This is strange circumstances. The juniors would still be juniors for another year. And you get what I'm saying. The sophomores are still sophomores next year. You have an extra year of eligibility. Whether or not the members of the Youngstown State men's and women's basketball team decide to take advantage of this remains to be seen. But you look at the standings, and everyone was jumping on Youngstown State being the team that was going to be the team that was going to challenge Wright State and Northern Kentucky. And by the way, Wright State and Northern Kentucky, they're in the top three. At least percentage-wise, they're in the top three. But the team that right now is the surprise of the Horizon League, Cleveland State. They're 12-2 overall. They are the number one seed right now in the Horizon League. A 12-2 conference record, 12-5 overall. Now, they don't have the best record overall. That belongs to Wright State. They're 13-4. Wright State is 11-3 in the league. One of those losses was against Youngstown State. Northern Kentucky is 7-5 in the league, 9-8 overall. One of those losses came at the hands of Youngstown State. Penguins at 4-10. They are in 11th place out of the 12-team league. They're in 11th place. Now, the conference seedings are going to be a little bit different. They're not going to go by win percentage. They have a formula where they're going to give teams, I believe, 2.4 wins for every road victory. And then the home games are 1 win per 1 home game. I believe it's either 1.4 or 2.4 is the formula for road victories. Before the weekend series against Detroit, Youngstown State was number 6. And I don't believe the Horizon League has met this week to determine the latest seedings. I don't believe they have. Hopefully when we get Rob Schmidt on Wednesday, they will have had that meeting and figured out who is where. This is going to be interesting, to say the least. We were hoping when conference tournament play starts, the top 4 teams are going to have a bye into the semifinals. 5 would play 12, 6 would play 11, 7 would play 10, 8 would play 9. The 5, the 6, the 7, and the 8 seeds would have a home game. And the home game would be on campus site. The quarterfinals are going to be on campus site. In the semifinal, in the quarterfinals, the 1 seed, the 2 seed, the 3 seed, and the 4 seed will have a home game. And the 4 winners in the first round will ultimately go on the road. And then the semifinals and the conference championship game will be held in Indianapolis at the Farmers Coliseum. I'm not familiar with the name of it. It's where the Pacers play in Indianapolis. And for the women, since Detroit is not playing basketball the rest of the year in the Horizon League, it's now down to 11 teams. You have the top 5 teams going to the next round. 6 plays 11, 7 plays 10, 8 plays 9. They'll reseed once the 8 teams are put to are put on paper. The higher seed gets home court in round 1, and the higher seed gets home court in the quarterfinals, and then they'll go to Indianapolis, play the semifinals, as well as the conference championship game, and go from there. The YSU women right now, they're in really good position to get a bye into the quarterfinals. They're in a really, really good position. They're creeping ever so close to the top 5, if they're not there already. So that's definitely something that we're going to be keeping an eye on as we get closer and closer to the end of the regular season and get into the conference tournament. It's been a rough year for the YSU men for sure. And again, the women started out with 2 COVID cases, which erased all of their non-conference games. Youngstown State, the men have only played 4 non-conference games. It's just been a very, very tough year for both programs. Unfortunately, the men are out of sorts. They got a key injury to Darius Quisenberry, but as we said yesterday, when does Quisenberry's injury now sound like an excuse instead of? I mean, it is reality. It's most definitely reality. And I can say this without any hesitation. YSU's not 4-10 if Darius Quisenberry is healthy, but the reality is he's not healthy, and they're 4-10. Now they haven't played with DQ in God knows how many games, close to 10. So at some point in time, you just got to sit back and say, okay, we got to do what we got to do without him. And let's see what happens here. And hopefully in these final 6 games, the Penguins are going to start playing some really, really good basketball and get ready for the conference tournament. And I know this is going to sound really crazy, but there really isn't an overwhelming favorite in this tournament, in this conference. Even though Cleveland State is 12-2, there are a lot of teams in the Horizon League that if you were to ask them, honest opinion, who's the best team in this league, very few of those teams would say Cleveland State. I think a lot of people would sit back and go Wright State. But I don't think there's an overwhelming favorite in this league, even though Cleveland State and Wright State are the only 2 teams with double digits in league wins in the right now for a number of teams. 14 games have been played. League schedule, 14 games have been played. That's how many league games have been played with or without COVID. That's how many games have been scheduled. In terms of how many teams have played the 14 games, Cleveland State has, Wright State has, Oakland has, Purdue Fort Wayne has, Green Bay has, and Youngstown State has. Northern Kentucky has played 12, Milwaukee's played 11, UIC and Detroit have played 10, IUPUI has played 10, and Robert Morris has played 9. Now that's how bad COVID has hit the Horizon League. It's been a really weird year, and it's going to get weirder because the NCAA tournaments are all going to be in Indianapolis. I mean, they're gonna play games in various arenas in and around Indianapolis, and some of the games are going to be played about an hour or so outside of Indianapolis. I know Assembly Hall in Bloomington, they're going to be playing some of the games where Butler plays. They're going to be playing some of the games there. They're going to be playing some of the games at Indiana State in Terre Haute. So it's going to be weird where you're not going to have a typical NCAA tournament where, you have your East region, your West region, your South region, your Midwest region, and everyone's going to be converging into one arena to see, 4 games or whatever. I mean, we're not going to see that this year. We're not going to see it this year. It's weird. Very weird. All right, 330-886-0813, the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business, 330-886-0813. Anthony and I were talking yesterday as we broke down the tournaments that were announced on Sunday, the girls' basketball tournament. Next Monday, or this coming Monday, I should say, 6 days from now, we will get the tournaments with the guys. The guys are going to be a week ahead of the girls. So you can expect the guys tournament to start around February 22nd, maybe February the 24th. And again, supersized districts, and we'll go from there. I look forward to seeing who the seeded teams or where teams are going to be seeded, especially teams like Cheney, who has had a really, really bad break in terms of COVID, and how many programs that are right now on the COVID list that are going to be playing maybe a small handful of games between now and the end of the regular season. And how is that going to affect that team when we start talking playoffs? Playoffs? There's some girls programs that are now on the COVID list. And again, with the tournament starting in earnest, if you're a D2, a D3, or a D4 school, your tournament starts 2 weeks from tomorrow. 2 weeks from tomorrow, the tournament starts. Now, let's say that you're right now in quarantine, whether it be a week or 2 weeks. I mean, if you're in quarantine right now for 2 weeks, you're not getting another regular season game. And truth be told, unless you're allowed to practice in the days leading up to the end of your quarantine, you're not going to get a practice in until the tournament start on Wednesday, February the 17th. This all goes back to the fall when Anthony and I were talking about as high school football and the OHSAA made the decision to shorten the season to 6 weeks and invite everybody to the tournament, which is something that in the history of playoff football in the state of Ohio, when we go back to 1972, the first year you actually had playoffs. Prior to 1972, state championships were given to schools via the AP or the United Press International, which is now no longer in service. You had an AP state champ, a UPI state champ, and you celebrated your state championship based on journalists, sports broadcasters, many of which never saw your team play, but they voted for you to be a state champion. Makes no sense. It's kind of like today's polls. It makes absolutely no sense. I've made mention of this for a long period of time. Polls are obsolete and inaccurate because who among the poll people have actually seen every single team? If you haven't, then why the hell do we have a poll? That's another story for another time. But ever since the Ohio High School Athletic Association came down with a playoff format in the early 1970s, it's never included every single team in the state of Ohio. It always was, well, in the beginning, top 2 teams in each region. Then it was top 4. Then it was top 8. In 2021, it's going to be the top 12 teams in a region. But we've never had every single team go to the playoffs, or at least invited to the state playoffs. This year, because of COVID, every single team was invited. Now, whether you decided to go or not, that's another story. But every single team was invited. But the premise of all of this was, if you had COVID, and you had COVID the day of the game, the day before the game, a couple of days before the game, your program got shut down, you couldn't play the game, you were eliminated from the playoffs. That's what's going to happen this year. And that's why we're doing a whole lot of this. We knock on wood every single day. And it doesn't matter if you're a team that struggled this year or if you're a team that has played exceptionally well. We're knocking on wood. We're hoping, we're praying that nobody gets COVID, that your basketball program does not get COVID between now and the end of the year, because sadly, if a team gets COVID during the tournaments, much like in football and every other fall sport, you're out. That's it. Season over. It's unfair. It's horrible. But it's reality. And I look at this schedule, and I love the supersize. I hope the OHSAA stays with it. I think it's a fantastic idea. Now, I preferred playing the games all in one site, but I got to be honest with you. I'm kind of digging the two districts smashed into one. And, okay, we'll play all of the games with the higher seed getting home court advantage all the way through the district championship. And then we'll put 4 teams in a region and play the 3 games, the regional semifinals, the regional championship games, play them all in one location. Division 4 and 3 in boys normally went to the Canton Fieldhouse, located next to the Hall of Fame. That's where Canton McKinley plays their games. Division 2 was normally at the Canton Civic Center, downtown Canton. And in Division 1, for our area, it was normally the Convocation Center on the campus of Cleveland State University. I got to be honest with you. I'm good with this. I'm good with the, a top-seeded team. You get home court advantage for as long as you want it through the district. I'm good with this. Now, obviously, you'd like to be able to have your kids go to a game at the iconic Struthers Fieldhouse, but if the OHSAA decides, you know what, we're going to go with this plan, I'm good with it. I like this idea of 2 big districts combined into one, and you get a choice which district you want to go to. I like this idea. I like this format. But as we said earlier yesterday and all through the fall, with this format comes a really dark cloud that you do not want hanging over your head. Because if your program gets a COVID outbreak, no matter how good you were in the regular season, your season comes to a close. And that's the bad part of it all. Now, we saw one local team not have a playoff game because of COVID. I think Champion was the only team in football that did not get to play a playoff game because they had a COVID outbreak. Hopefully, fingers crossed, in all of the winter tournaments, we don't have any COVID outbreaks and everybody gets an opportunity to do their tournament, no questions asked, hopefully. We're going to take a timeout. On the other side, we will hear from Doug Chapin, Tribune, Chronicle, and Vindicator sports editor. He's coming up next. It's a Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Back in a bit.
Baird Brothers remains your source for fine hardwood products. For the time being, we're open for customer pickup only on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and Saturday from 9 a.m. till noon. Place your order online at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
The 4M Company, being an architect and construction manager for over 40 years, has had the opportunity to use many different electrical businesses for our projects. The depth, quality, and knowledge and attention to detail displayed by Dickey Electric makes them stand out above all the rest.
For state-of-the-art expertise and a timeless commitment to our customers, contact Joe Dickey Electric. We are everything electrical.
I went to Greenwood Chevrolet because I was really interested in looking at the tracks.
Because I wanted my dream truck.
Because I've been going there for 20 years. I think whenever we go there, whatever car we're looking for, they have tremendous inventory.
If you're looking for people who care about you, Greenwood is the place to go.
You know, it's like family there. The girls know me in service. It's Miss Kim in the Tahoe.
I'm really happy that I went
to Greenwood Chevrolet.
Because they really went
the extra mile for me.
Now we're going the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Local teams are heating up the hardwoods, and you can keep up with all the action on and off the court with Five Guys Hoop News all season long on 21 Sports.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. And joining me, as he always does every Tuesday at this time on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline, we bring in Vindicator and Tribune Chronicle sports editor Doug Chapin. Doug, how are you today, sir?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. So Sunday, the girls basketball coaches all got together. They all voted their teams in their respective divisions that they're in, with all the basketball teams in their supersized district. And we got the seedings and we got the tournament matchups. And you know, Doug, this will be the first year that they have combined two districts into one supersized district in boys and girls basketball, and with the premise of the higher seed will get home court advantage all the way through the district championship game, and then the four teams will go to a region, then they'll go to a neutral site. I got to be honest with you, Doug, and I'm coming from an age where everyone converged on one neutral site for the sectional and the district tournament and then another site for the regional tournament. I kind of like this idea that the OHSAA has come up with here.
Well, we'll see how other people like it. I mean, I don't know that I know when they first went to having the sectional games at home sites, the better seeded team, a lot of people didn't like that because they liked the ability for everybody to gather in one place for 2 rounds of sectional and 2 rounds of district. And, you know, it was a way for fans from one school to get to see fans from another school, et cetera. And then they went to the first 2 rounds, the 2 sectional rounds at home sites, and just the 2 district rounds, 3 games total at the neutral district site. So this is taking it even another step further, and of course this is because of COVID. They you know, don't want everybody gathering in one place, and most of these schools still aren't going to be having fans besides family. We talked about this during the soccer and volleyball tournaments too. They did the same thing then, and I as far as I know, the reaction to it was positive. It's in the previous way with there are 2 districts in Northeast Ohio that our teams go to. You would be assigned to one of the 2 districts based on geography for the most part, and now you've got the choice of you can go to either one of those 2 districts. Since neither of the districts is going to be played at a neutral site, they don't have to worry about geography so much. There will be some long trips, but the fact that there is no neutral site makes it possible you can play just about anybody.
Yeah, now in a perfect world, and again, I go back into as a child of the 70s, I go back into the 70s, and you remember the good old days, for lack of a better term, where you would have a tournament, whether it be Class A, Class AA, Class AAA, you would have a site. And every single team in this tournament would be playing their basketball games, their sectional and their district basketball games at this particular site. Class A would be at the Struthers Fieldhouse for boys. Class AA used to be in Salem. Class AAA used to be at the field house. And you would have your sectional and your district tournaments played right there. Now, there were a couple of years where the sectional tournaments were played at the field house, and then you'd go to the Canton Field House for the districts, which made absolutely no sense, and they quickly disbanded that and went back to district play at the Struthers Field House. But with this particular idea, you're smashing two districts into one, and I agree that there are going to be some pretty long road trips. For example, Division 4, I want to say, Division 4. My alma mater is going to be hosting Cardinal in a sectional first-round matchup in girls basketball in Division 4. Leetonia is the 10 seed. Middlefield Cardinal is the 11 seed. Middlefield Cardinal is in northern Trumbull County, and they're going to have to go all the way down to Leetonia, which is at least an hour, where they're going to be playing a game, your first-round tournament game. I mean, that's kind of out of the way, and these two teams would, in a normal year, would not be in the same tournament. But I like the idea of having a really large, two districts combining into one. You get two winners out of the deal. I kind of like the idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything against it or whatever. I think it's kind of neat, too, that you're getting different matchups. Like you said, Cardinal, which actually is in Geauga County,
okay,
would have been in the sectional/district at Grand Valley, whereas Leetonia would probably have been assigned to the one at Mineral Ridge. But now they've got the chance to play because of the way it's set up. And just to go back in time even further than you, in the 60s, in my experience, Class A, the Western Reserve and Harding in those days played at Struthers, but the Class AA was at Warren Western Reserve, and Class A was at Harding. And I remember for a long, long time it was where the Class A teams only played two games at Harding and then went to Canton for the district. And I thought that lasted for more than a couple of years. I thought that was a permanent way, because I believe it was because there were fewer Class A teams and they wanted to get into the district because they had the group up near Lake County, and then there were some out in Wayne County, et cetera. But I remember the district there'd be three districts there, and the teams that came out of Harding or Struthers would go somewhere on the bracket there. But they ended up having three winners that went on to the regional. But of course that's long ago. But yeah, for the way it is now, I mean, I think this is kind of neat. We talked about it, like I said, we talked about it in the fall, the first time they'd done it, and it was because of the COVID. And whether they keep it or not afterward, and whether we ever get back to normal, what we consider normal times, we'll have to see. But yeah, it will make for some interesting matchups. It also allows there's some strategy involved in where you place yourself on the bracket. Until recently, that was always involved, part of the process. Coaches would go to a place and they'd get their seeding. They'd seed the top four, and then the rest of it was by draw. And then they finally said, Northeast Ohio said, we're going to be like the rest of the state, and we're just going to vote to see the seeding, and the seeding will be 1 through 12 instead of just the top four. And then they took away the coaches' ability to place themselves on the bracket. Instead, it was done 1 through 4 gets a bye, 5 plays 12, 6 plays 11, etc. Well, now they're back to the case where you can avoid a certain opponent if you want to, and if you'll notice, there are some of the brackets you'll have the 1 seed will be joined by on their half of the bracket. Like for example, Division 4, where McDonald's the 1 seed. You got number 3 Falls, number 5 Bristol, number 8 Springfield. So you got a chance to the two seed, whatever that was.
Western Reserve.
Yeah, Western Reserve went in the opposite side bracket, and I'm not sure what the rules were, whether you had to go opposite if you were 1-2, but again, it did give everybody a chance to make a decision rather than just have their team placed based on where they were voted for the seeding.
Yeah, and I liked what Salem did. The Quakers are seeded number 4, and the top seed is Perry in the first bracket, and everyone was wanting to go away from Perry. So you had Poland, the 2 seed, Marlington, the 3 seed, West Branch, the 5 seed, and here's Salem, the 4 seed, and they're like, you know what? We're going to go into the area where nobody knows anything about us. Because the teams that are in Salem's district, Geneva and Lakeview and Perry, Niles, Canton South, while Canton South is in the same division, same conference, Eastern Buckeye Conference, as Salem, Edgewood, Struthers, Field, Streetsboro, and then here's Salem. I think it was a genius move by Salem. They're going to go into the same bracket as Canton South. Now, Perry is the top seed, but Canton South will probably wind up playing Perry before Salem does, if it's all chalk. And Salem will get a pretty good idea of just how good Perry is based on what Canton South, or if Canton South does indeed play Perry, and Salem's hoping that they do because they played Canton South twice this year, being that they're in the same league. They can get a really good scouting report on, okay, what did Canton South do against Perry? And we've seen Canton South 2 times, so we now know what we can expect against Perry based on them playing a team that we saw twice. I thought it was a genius move by Salem.
And they probably won't see Canton South because they're in the top half with Perry. But in Salem's bottom half in that bracket, like you said, Streetsboro and Field would be the first winner they'd play. But then the other part of that bracket has Kenston is the number 6 seed, and Chagrin Falls is in it, Ravenna and NDCL. So, you're right. That's you can figure it out however you want as a coach, whether you want to, make sure you get a couple games in, and try to choose teams that you think you can beat at one point, knowing that you're going to face the really good team later, or you can jump right in there and try to face the.
For 2 weeks from tomorrow, your tournament starts. Well, let's say that one of these teams that's currently being shut down for COVID, you're not going to get back into it until 3 or 4 days before the tournament starts. You definitely want to play that first round game and not get a bye. But if you're one of those teams that is trying like heck to get your regular season games played and you wind up playing, 5 or 6 games in the final 2 weeks, you're definitely going to want that bye if you get that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, each coach has their own way of thinking of that and their own circumstances for their team. So, and regarding the COVID too, we saw this. It happened in the in football tournament and in the fall tournaments. There were several instances where, even as late as the district final, I believe, in one of the soccers, I think it was, somebody had to drop out. A team did because of COVID. And in football, wasn't it Lake Catholic, I think, ended up advancing one in the second or third round.
Yeah, Elyria Catholic got beat because they had COVID and they were a 3 seed.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, they couldn't play. So, yeah, it's something that's been, it had an effect in the fall sports. It probably will again in the winter. And, I don't think it's just a couple teams. Every night we are having, or during the day, we assign games based on the schedule we have, and we try to keep it as up to date as we can with the changes. Some schools are better than others at letting us know about their changes. But there hasn't been a day in the last, or since January started, that we haven't had, one of my reporters has called me up and said, hey, by the way, the game I was supposed to cover has been canceled because of COVID or whatever. And so I have to find them another game. And every night we go in there with an idea what games we're going to have being called in or emailed in that night. And the list the games we finally get is totally different. Many games are postponed or canceled altogether. And then we find out other games are added at the last instant. And, so we've got those in the paper. So it's been a very chaotic 5 weeks since the Trumbull schools started playing again, and the stoppages have been popping up all over the place in various schools. We'll hear that so-and-so school is out, isn't going to play any more games this week, and another school has been sidelined for 2 weeks, and whatever. So it's been a really difficult. I mean, it's more difficult for the kids and the coaches, et cetera, teams, but trying to keep track of who's playing who and when has been tough for us, and it's probably going to continue that way through the tournament. And unfortunately, we're probably going to see a really good team or two that's going to end up having to forfeit a game, because I don't think the OHSA is going to postpone these games and say, okay, you can play it next week, because they got to schedule to keep.
Well, I don't think there's any question about it. I think we're going to do the same thing as in the fall. If game time and the day of the game and your team gets a COVID outbreak, your season is over. And that's a finality that nobody wants to see. But we said this at the beginning of when they reopened sports. I think all of us agreed that this wasn't going to be fair. This was not going to be something where everything was going to be fair and everything was going to be, normal. There is nothing normal about what is going on in sports right now, thanks to COVID. But the good news is, we get to see a ton of tournament games, and we'll see what happens. Now, the bad news in your profession, in our profession, I should say, you can't be a million different places at one time. And I know for you guys, Wednesday, February the 17th, practically everybody is going to be playing basketball in D2, D3, and D4. And most, if not all, of our local schools that are not Division I are going to be involved in a game.
Each district, whoever was running the district, set their own schedule and play the games whichever days they wanted to play, Monday and a Tuesday, and then maybe a Thursday for the bracket final or whatever. But in recent years, the Northeast District Board has said all Division I, Division 2, 3, and 4 sectional first round games are on this date, sectional bracket finals are on this date, etc. And yes, it has made it difficult for us to get to a lot of games, partly because there's a lot of other things going on too. There's swimming, wrestling, bowling. We don't necessarily go to those, but we have to have enough people around to cover those and get the results in. So, yeah, it's difficult. And I've always wondered about the officials. If you're playing every single game or just about every game on one particular night, you have enough officials to cover all of those, and apparently they do. But the hardest one, the one that bothers me the most, is come district championship. It's usually on a Saturday, and we often have, now doing 2 newspapers, we have up to sometimes 8 or 10. I'm thinking in the last fall we had a bunch of volleyball district finals, and we couldn't get to all of them. And we heard from from some of the fans from one of the schools we couldn't get to, and there's nothing we can do about it. We've got a limited number of people, and if there are 8 district championship games going on that Saturday, and the other thing too is when the girls are playing the district championship, the boys started up their tournament, so there might be a Saturday night game in the boys sectional. The wrestling is probably, I think wrestling starts that weekend. I'm not sure. But, yeah, there's a lot going on, and we try to get to as many of the big games as we can. And, we're not always able to do that. But, yeah, it's an exciting time. It's amazing. We don't root for any of our teams to lose and be eliminated from the tournament, but when they do, it makes their job a little bit easier.
Doug Chapin, the Tribune Chronicle and Vindicator sports editor, joining me on the MPVivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Over the weekend in Austintown, it's a yearly event. It's a wonderful, wonderful event, the EWOL wrestling tournament. And one of your own, Joe Simon was inducted into their Hall of Fame. Joe has done a phenomenal job with the Tribune Chronicle, and now the Tribune Chronicle and the Vindicator are together. A lot of folks are seeing the talented work of Joe Simon in the Vindicator, and he's a huge fan and advocate of wrestling, and it was good to see that he got inducted into the EWOL Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it was well deserving. He's been at it for a long time. I got back to the Tribune in fall of 2014, and he'd already established that he was the wrestling journalist in the area, and he continued with that. And we tried to schedule as much wrestling coverage as we can, and most of the time it's him. Occasionally we'll use somebody else, but he just knows what these kids have gone through, and he's able to not just give them some publicity, but he also understands how hard that sport is. In all the years I've been covering high school sports since 1980, and the two sports that I have the most respect for the players, for the athletes involved, is wrestling and cross country. Those two sports, and I haven't covered a lot of those. I did a lot earlier in my career, but those two sports, those kids, everything they have out there on the floor, or on the course, or on the mat, or on the course. Not that the other sports don't, but those sports are so physically demanding that you have to give it to those kids that are doing that. Even if that's all they do, they just do it in high school. Later on in life, they can take the lessons they learned in those two sports about endurance and never quitting and that kind of thing, and it makes them better people, I think. But Joe deserves all the recognition he got being in the EOWL Hall of Fame, and they do a tremendous job too. That organization itself, that league stretches from Lake Erie to Ashtabula County all the way down to Ohio River, Columbiana County, and even encompasses a little bit, like Louisville's in there now from Stark County, and some of the Portage County schools are in there too. So it's a really good organization, and they do a nice job. They're very organized, which makes it easier for us. And Joe, of course, does a tremendous job, not just covering them, but the other teams too. Some people think, it's a niche sport that not a lot of people do it, but the people that do it are really dedicated to it.
Well, and the good news is Joe is now the head football coach at Liberty, so now you know that you're going to be getting final scores, and you'll get some pertinent comments from a guy that has been around the block as a journalist.
Well, he'll know how to avoid answering questions.
Yeah, that's true too.
There are some folks out there, some coaches out there, who are really, really good at that. They are able to talk and answer the question without actually saying anything. And but that's he's going to be that, and we have to figure out how to handle that to avoid conflict of interest and that kind of thing. So we're sort of talking about that, what we can do there, with him being head coach.
Doug Chapin, he is the Vindicator and Tribune Chronicle sports editor. He joins me every Tuesday at this time on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Doug, over the weekend, the YSU women splitting their road trip with Robert Morris. The guys, unfortunately, dropped to Detroit. Boy, it seems like the guys have a mental block. They will get into some really tight basketball games, and in the final minutes, they just haven't been able to consistently get that key basket or get that key defensive stop to get a victory in these tight ball games this year.
And that kind of thing sort of grows on a team. If it happens more than once, and it's kind of, here we go again. You have to watch out for that. I'm sure Coach has been doing everything he can to mentally keep them after it. It's difficult losing so many tight games, and Coach keeps saying that it comes down to one possession sometimes, or 1, 2, 3 possessions in a game determine who wins it. And so you've got to have that ability to have 100% focus on each possession, whether it's a defensive possession for your team or an offensive possession. Obviously, Quisenberry not being playing is a huge factor, and you've got to think that they'd have won more than half of those close games if he were available. But the young guards are learning, and they're being thrust into difficult situations, and whether they're coming through now or not, that will make them better for the future. But hopefully they can get things straightened out and be playing well headed into the Horizon League tournament.
We're 6 games before the Horizon League tournament starts, and if the Penguins are going to get hot and have this good karma leading up to the tournament, this is the time. It's time for this team to get it together and get on a 6-game winning streak or go 5-1 in the last 6 games and start playing some really good basketball, because the season is coming to a quick ending here.
Yeah, it is. They don't have much time left. Their schedule is a little bit easier than down the stretch than it was at the beginning of the season. I mean, they play some of the teams that are lower in the standings, but still, they just got to go out and win one. Have they won on the first game of one of these back-to-backs yet? I think that's the key. If they could get the first win, I think most of their wins this year have come in the second game, the Saturday game. But if you win that Friday game, the first one, that gives you you got a chance for a sweep, and that's what you need to develop that momentum. Is you get a couple of sweeps in there. So yeah, their time's running out for them to get it started.
Doug, before we let you go, Cavaliers, it's good to see them get a victory last night as they knocked off Minnesota, and they go to 10-11 on the campaign. I really like what the organization is doing as we go LeBron James rebuild 2.0, being that it's the second time he leaves Cleveland. I think this rebuild is going rather well, and the future for this team seems to be at a pretty nice look right now.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. Now, speaking of possessions, the night before in Minnesota when they lost, they took some possessions off. It appeared from watching on television. It was a close game, and they had a nice lead for a little bit, and then they sort of relaxed. It seemed, and then last night when they won, they played hard all the way through, and they made sure that there were no possessions taken off or anything like that. They had good shots on offense, and they made good stops on defense, or forced a difficult shot. I think the key is, and I'm not the only one that thinks that, is the two guards, Garland and what's his name, Sexton.
Sexton, yeah.
They both have the potential to be really, really at the top of the game guard-wise in the NBA. And as of now, they seem to have a pretty good relationship with each other. They sort of settled on the fact Garland's going to be the point, and Sexton's going to end up being the shooting guard or the scoring guard. I think a key will be them maintaining that relationship and not having some sort of jealousy factor get involved. And then they can supplement those two with forwards and bigs, etc. They got a nice mix at the bigs right now. Whether or not they keep them all the way through remains to be seen. Jared Allen is a huge pickup. He's a really good player, and him paired with Nance, the way JaVale McGee's playing now, that's a pretty good combo. And I left out Drummond simply because he seems to be the most valuable trade option for them if they decide they need to go that way. But I'd like to see them stick with what they've got right now. You need a source for points, and he's it right now. He's the main one. The two guards can score when they need to, and it's a pretty good look. They're young, they're inexperienced, and they're making mistakes and losing games they shouldn't lose. But I like the progress too. I think they're on their way.
Okay, last night in Atlanta, and I made the comment of this, trying to tie it in locally. LeBron James, the Lakers were playing Atlanta. I guess that he got into a verbal beef with a couple of fans, a husband and a wife. The wife stuck up for her husband. A lot of trash talking and whatnot. The husband and wife were escorted out of the arena. Play continued. LeBron basically said after the game, I kind of missed the bantering back and forth. Those two shouldn't have been thrown out. It was just, we were getting after it and whatnot. But it dawned on me, and I don't know about you, Doug, but I go to a number of games when I'm not involved with YSN, or when I was working at Clear Channel, I'd go to a number of games and not involved with work. And you hear some fans, whether it be high school, college, or the pros, and fans will spout off, whether it be to a player, whether it be to an official. And I always kind of thought, if you pay for a price of admission, does it really give you carte blanche to do anything that you want or say anything that you want?
I don't think so. I know I was a yeller and umpire at officials way back when my kids were playing, 4th grade, 5th grade basketball. But I understand that it's a difficult thing to do. And no, I don't think fans should be allowed to say anything they want. A little bit of banter, I suppose, is okay. I've always been of the you just keep your mouth shut when you're playing. You just let your game speak for you. You don't have to say anything or talk anything. But it's everybody has their own opinion about that. I don't mind it too much. If somebody's really witty and has some really funny, sarcastic comments, I've got no problem with that. But I have trouble with the idea that it's entertainment. It's not entertainment. It's competition first. They put the league together, whatever league it is, whatever sport it is. They put the league together to find out who's going to win the league, and they play games to find out who's going to win the games. And that's the most important aspect of it. It just so happened that a big entertainment industry grew up around every sport, and people think that that's most important. I don't. Those players are not out there to entertain you as a fan. They are out there to try to win a game, and they do certain things to try to do that. And whether it's entertaining to you or not shouldn't matter. That's why I just hate the way baseball is changing rules for the fans. Forget the fans, and I understand they pay a lot of what's going on, the salaries, etc. But the first and foremost thing is it is a competition to see who wins, and I don't know. It just bothers me that it's changed so much to be an entertainment. And what I also hate is, and I shouldn't say this on a radio sports show, but I prefer focus to be more on what is going on the field rather than the off-the-field stuff like contract negotiations and all that stuff. Now, I know it affects what happens on the field, but still, what's on the field or the court or the pitch matters more to me than what happens on the fringes outside the field.
Well, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, unless, of course, someone decides to get into some serious trouble, and then you obviously have to make that as part of a story. But I definitely prefer what goes on in the game instead of what a person does outside of the lines or off the court or off the field, or I prefer the game news instead of the non stuff. Yeah, I agree with that.
And that's the thing. But when you turn on ESPN now, and all they've got is all the stuff that's going on outside it. But the thing too about sports and competitive sports is, remember, all of these were started by a bunch of guys, for the most part, getting together and starting to play this game, whether it was baseball out, on the Elysian Fields or wherever the heck they started it, or whether it was the first vestiges of football the way we know it. They were out there playing, and they'd get together and they'd play, and then they said, you know what, there's this team, there's this town, the next town over. They've got a baseball team together too. Let's go play them. And then they get some teams from other towns, and let's form a league. And it all started like that. And the whole idea was trying to win the game. And then when you put a league together, you try to win the league. And someone somewhere came along and said, hey, you know what? I can sell tickets to this. Let's put up a stadium, or I can sell concessions, sell food to the fans who are coming to watch the play. And obviously, first it was just family and friends, and then somebody said, well, let's tell everybody that the game's going to be played. Try to get a bunch of fans out there to watch, and it grew from there. But in the end, it is still a bunch of guys or girls getting together and playing against each other and competing, and that's what sports, the essence of sports is to me. It's the competition. You and your teammates are trying to win against that team, and that should be all that matters. Is doing whatever you can within the rules, even pushing the envelope a little bit. I have no problem with that. To try to win the game, not to try to speed up your game or to get more fans in it or anything like that. But I'm probably a lone wolf crying in the wilderness for that kind of thing.
Well, I'm not sure that you are, Doug. I got to be honest. I'm definitely not sure that you are. But regardless, it's I agree with a lot of what you said for sure. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the near future with what direction this goes for sure.
With no fans in the stands, it's sort of reverting back to that, the origins of the game, and what effect will that have money-wise? Will leagues professional leagues start to have to tone down or scale back their games, their leagues?
Yeah, Major League Baseball right now is in the process of trying to figure this out. And, Major League Baseball and the Players Union, the most powerful union in all of sports, they couldn't get together on simple changes. The owners wanted 154 games, told the players that they would pay them an entire year's salary, and the players said, "No, don't want to do it. We're going to play 162. We're not going to do expanded playoffs. We're not going to have a DH universal. We're going to play 162. This is the way it is." And it seems to me that now we're dealing with the players' union doesn't trust the owners. The owners don't trust the players. And this is, stop if you've heard this, this is going to lead to a strike, which in all likelihood is going to further alienate fans from watching baseball.
Well, that remains to be seen. We'll see what happens here. I'm not sure why the players were so adamant about not, just delaying the start, unless it's just, because they had the option to. The owners had to get their approval, but we'll see. I think what we're going to see is the in the future as we go along. We mentioned that the OHSA won't. If you can't play because of COVID, you forfeit in the tournament. The NFL sort of took that stance after the first few instances where they kept trying to. We talked about this before. They rescheduled that Steelers-Ravens game 3 times. And then they sort of just said, forget that. We're just going to play the games. It's up to the teams to, come up with the players they need. So I think that's going to happen, too, in these other sports. They're going to go ahead and they're going to, play. Now, the NBA is going to run into trouble because they've had to postpone several games, and they only did half the schedule, so they're going to set up a new schedule, or the remainder of the schedule soon for March and April, I think. And they've got a bunch of postponements to get in there. Now, it'll be interesting to see what they do with those. Are they going to make somebody play 5 games a week? I don't know. Or will they extend their season, even further than it goes? But yeah, it's the world is different right now, and has been for the last year now. And that's just, just the way it is. And until we can figure this out, it's going to be that way.
Doug, always a pleasure. Look forward to catching up with you next week.
All right. Take care.
You got it. Doug Chapin. He is the Tribune, Chronicle, and Vindicator sports editor. By the way, Major League Baseball had been negotiating with the Players Union about moving training camp from February the 17th, where camp is supposed to be. Originally, it was supposed to be open February the 17th, which is, by the way, 15 days from now, 2 weeks from tomorrow. Not that I'm keeping score or anything. The alternate proposal was going to be to move spring training to March the 22nd and then move opening day to April the 28th. Play 154 games instead of 162 games. Expand the postseason and keep the universal DH alive and well. The Players Union said no on all of this. They do not want to start the season in late April. They did not want to shorten the season by 8 games, and they did not want expanded postseason. Now, I'm not sure if they didn't want the DH. I think that they basically said no, and the DH was part of the crossfire in that. Be that as it may, the camps are scheduled to open 2 weeks from tomorrow. Opening day is now set for April the 1st, as it was supposed to be. And you're going to play a 162-game season. And it just, I'm looking at this, and the reason why the owners wanted to do this was because in Maricopa County, just outside of Phoenix, where all of the Arizona teams are located, I believe you have 16 of the 30 spring training teams are in Arizona, and the other 14 are in Florida. So the Arizona teams, Maricopa County basically went to the Major League Baseball and said, hey, we do have a COVID problem in Maricopa County, and we don't want Major League Baseball to be swallowed up into this. And that's where the owners said, hey, let's, being that Maricopa County has a COVID issue, let's scale this back and let's start spring training in late March instead of mid-February. Let's start it, a month and change down the road in March 22nd. And then instead of opening the season up on April the 1st, let's open the season up April the 28th. And the union said, hell no, we're not going to do that. We're going to play a normal baseball season. All of this being said, it's the object that you are seeing, the nice little light that you're seeing at the end of a dark tunnel. It's not sunlight. It's a train, and it's about to run over Major League Baseball's fan base. We're going to have a strike, and it's going to get ugly, and it's going to be a long strike. It's not going to be this year, but at the end of the 2021 season, Major League Baseball is not going to be playing much for quite a while. I'm just going to say it right now. And this feels a whole lot different than the strike of 81, and it feels a whole lot different than the strike of 94. Back then, I was a teenager in the strike of 81. Major League Baseball came back with a vengeance. The All-Star game was in Cleveland that year. Over 70,000 people showed up. It was phenomenal, and Major League Baseball had growth in popularity in the 80s. The 94 strike, it pissed some people off, and it took a while for Major League Baseball to get back to where it was, mainly on the backs of Cal Ripken and a bunch of guys on steroids. If the union and the owners don't get their crap together, I hate to say this, but this might be the end of Major League Baseball as we know it, in terms of baseball being reasonably popular. It's nowhere near where it was. But if there were to be a strike at the end of the 2021 season, Major League Baseball would become about as relevant nationally as the National Hockey League, which is more of a regional sport. If baseball hasn't already become a regional sport, and there are those that would argue that it has, I don't necessarily agree with it. Another strike, and this sport becomes strictly a regional sport where in 10, 15, 20 years, it goes along the same lines as boxing and horse racing, where it dies a slow death. Now, yeah, boxing and horse racing still exist, but go back 70 years, boxing and horse racing were way up here, and all the other sports, including baseball, were a notch or two below horse racing and boxing. Now, horse racing and boxing, I mean, it's, when it's the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont, oh, yeah, people love it. But outside of that, not so much. Boxing, it's a crooked business now. Too many letters, too many championship belts. It's not a regulated business. It's nowhere near as popular and nowhere near as fun as it used to be. Now, obviously, if you had a name specifically in the heavyweight division, it would probably bring the sport back, but to nowhere near where it was in the 40s, 50s, and in some ways in the 60s. Major League Baseball is going on that path. It's been on that path for a number of years. You put a strike after the 2021 season, Major League Baseball goes off the cliff. And I hate to say that because I'm a baseball guy, but it's the truth. If the owners and the players union don't get their crap together here real quick, they're going to take this game and put it off a cliff, and the game as we know it will never be the same. And if that hasn't started already, some people believe the process has already started. I don't know. Maybe they're right. But if you throw another strike, this ain't going to be like 81 and 94. It's going to be far more damaging. The game itself, it will not be the same if they do have a strike. That's my prediction, and it's just looking more and more and more like you're going to have this large lockout and strike after the 2021 season. It's a damn shame that Major League Baseball has come to this stupidity between the owners and the players union. Now you're just fighting over stuff you shouldn't be fighting with. It reminds me of a couple that's divorcing, and they're in arbitration, and they're arguing over the dumbest stuff. Instead of using their minds and dropping their pitchforks and saying, hey, look, we got to work together, split this stuff up and go our separate ways. No, the two will go drag it out to court and act like a bunch of a-holes over stupid stuff. That's what the players union and the owners are doing right now. Reminds me of a couple that can't that's on the brink of divorce, that can't separate their shit, and they have to go to an arbitrary judge or someone, and then it gets ruled. Are you kidding me? Good Lord, get your stuff together. All right, we're going to take a timeout. On the other side, we'll take your phone calls, 330-886-0813. Dan Bertolini, the manager, the head baseball coach. I hate that term. It's manager. I know in college it's different. Well, hell, they use aluminum bats in college, so, I guess you can say different terminology, but, who cares? Dan Bertolini, he is the head coach, the manager of the YSU baseball team. We'll get him on the air in the 2 o'clock hour. We'll have some fun with him. That's another week closer to the baseball season. And in case you were hiding under a rock, Youngstown State does play baseball here pretty quickly. They will be opening up the season in Alabama against Troy, and then Youngstown State will be headed to Louisiana as they will be playing LSU, as well as one of the teams down in Thibodaux, Louisiana. Man, this is going to be a fun year as YSU plays Nicholls State and Louisiana State, as they'll be in Louisiana the weekend of February 26th And the weekend of February 19th, they'll be in Troy, Alabama, which is, I want to say, around the Montgomery area. It might be a little south of Montgomery. We'll catch up with YSU baseball coach Dan Bertolini, and we'll see how the team is doing. You only get two weekends of non-conference baseball, and then the conference play will start the weekend of March the 5th. YSU will open up their conference play against Purdue-Fort Wayne. And that'll be March the 5th, a single game against Purdue-Fort Wayne, doubleheader on Saturday, March the 6th, and then a single game on March the 7th. And then the Penguins will go to Dayton March the 12th, the 13th, and the 14th. The home opener for the Penguins will be on Friday, be a non-conference affair, 3-game series with St. Bonaventure. Friday, March the 19th, and a doubleheader on Saturday, March the 20th. That'll be the home opener in the weekend, first weekend series at Eastwood Field. But the Penguins will be starting college baseball 2 weeks from Friday. Yeah, how about that one? 2 weeks from Friday, the Penguins will begin their college baseball season down in Alabama as they take on Troy. A single game on Friday, doubleheader on Saturday, single game on Sunday. And then they will go to Thibodaux, Louisiana, which is south of Baton Rouge, about an hour south of Baton Rouge. They will play Nicholls State in Thibodaux at 1 o'clock, and then they will journey up to Baton Rouge and take on LSU. It's 1 o'clock our time, noon Central Time, because those folks are in the Central Time Zone. So it'll be noon Central Time, 1 o'clock our time. And then later that evening, the Penguins will travel to Baton Rouge, about an hour north of Thibodaux, and they will play LSU. And that game will start at 8 o'clock our time. And then on Saturday, the Penguins will play at Baton Rouge against LSU, Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock our time. And then on Sunday, the Penguins will close out their weekend series in Louisiana. They'll be in Thibodaux on Sunday afternoon, a 3 o'clock start against Nicholls State. So that'll be the second weekend of college baseball. The first weekend, as we mentioned, 2 weeks from this Friday, the Penguins open up their college baseball season in Alabama as they take on Troy. We will hear from the head baseball coach, the skipper, the head cheese, the manager of the YSU baseball team, Dan Bertolini. That is coming up momentarily. It is a Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown.
No matter what the weather, be prepared with a reliable, efficient Rude gas furnace or air conditioner from MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. Call your energy efficient expert, MP Vivo, today for a free estimate.
Here at MP Vivo, we rely on Rude, and so should you.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is October 15th through December 7th. Now's the time to make sure your plan continues to meet your needs for the upcoming year.
Call today.
High-res Futurecast shows steady snow for the next few hours.
Still just downright cold.
It is bitter out there.
Strong bands of lake effect snow.
Winds is kind of the big story today as well.
So if you need a more detailed winter forecast on WFMJ.com and the Storm Tracker 21 app.
I went to Greenwood Chevrolet because I was really interested in looking at the tracks.
Because I wanted my dream truck.
Because I've been going there for 20 years.
I'm really happy that I went
To Greenwood Chevrolet.
Because they really went
The extra mile for me.
Now we're going the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Joining me as he will do every Tuesday at this time on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline, the head baseball coach, the manager of the YSU Penguins, Dan Bertolini. Dan, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Ross?
I'm doing well. Around this time, I would be really jacked up, ready for the breakfast. Unfortunately, COVID kills the Meet the Team breakfast, which I look forward to on a yearly basis. But COVID's not killing the season. Knock on wood. 2 weeks from Friday, you guys will head to Alabama and open up the YSU baseball season against Troy. Skip, what are the preparations like as you guys are now inside of 3 weeks before you open it up?
Yeah, we're really excited to get the season kicked off, and we started team practice on Saturday, so that was exciting. We had 2 inter-squad scrimmages over the weekend, and got a chance to get out there. I mean, I know our guys are itching to get back after it, after having the season canceled last year. So I thought it was a great weekend. We got a lot of work to do, but it was fun at least to get that started.
Dan, has anyone opened your eyes in the early part of the practices now that you got everyone together? Has anyone really opened your eyes and said, wow, this guy is so far, he's having a heck of a good camp?
Yeah, I would say a couple guys did a really nice job in the inter-squad scrimmages. I thought Nate Ball had a really good outing in our scrimmage, left-handed pitcher. We kind of we know that he's got the talent. It was just kind of getting it all put together. I thought he's had 2 really good bullpens back to back, and then threw well in the game, so that was encouraging. You can always use, we need some left-handed relief arms. I thought Kenny Missick did a really nice job, local kid from Fitch. I thought he did a nice job. He was out last year due to injury, so glad to have him back. Matt Brofsky did a real nice job for us. He's a transfer from OU that had to sit last year that, could potentially mix into the weekend. And then, I thought we have a freshman that's doing a real nice job, Nick Perez. He's been really outstanding most of the fall and now into the preseason here, and hopefully, he's another guy that can mix into that weekend rotation spot. So it's been great. Some guys are starting slow, some guys are starting quick. It's just some guys were quarantined because of the travel restrictions, so that put a little bit of damper on guys, whether they were out for 10 days when we got back to campus, and if you're from Pennsylvania. So there's a lot of factors that have gone into it, but I think for where we're at, we're in a pretty good spot.
Now, Skip, you guys will start your season in Alabama as you take on Troy on Friday, February the 19th. 4 games, 3 days. You'll have a 7 o'clock start on Friday night, February the 19th, a doubleheader on Saturday, February the 20th, a single game on Sunday, February the 21st. Knock on wood, hope and pray the weather cooperates. But it's interesting, in pro ball, you got 25-man roster, 25 guys are going to make the trip. College ball, it's a little bit different. You have guys on your baseball team, but not everyone goes on the road trip. Tell everyone what that entails, Skip.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different this year than other years because of COVID. I mean, typically you can take typically we travel between 27 and 30 guys a weekend, depending on the weekend, and now we're playing double headers pretty much every weekend. So on a normal year, we would probably travel closer to 30 players, but because of COVID and the restrictions and things, they want us. The Horizon League came down and put a 27-man travel roster on us. So it's gonna be difficult and tricky. All these guys work so hard to play and practice, and so it's just unfortunate that some of the guys won't be able to make some trips. But with everything going on and contact tracing and COVID, anyone could be in that situation where they're the guy on any given weekend. So no matter if you travel week 1 or week 15, you have to be prepared to be the guy that's going to help us impact and help us win a championship.
I got to imagine practices between now and Friday, February the 19th, or whenever you guys journey to Alabama, and I would assume it would be the day before or a couple of days before. I got to assume that practices leading up to the plane trip down to Alabama are going to be intense because, let's face it, if you really bust your butt and practice extremely well, you might wind up on that 27-man roster and take the first road trip of the season.
Yeah. I think there's still a lot to be decided as far as the pitching staff goes. I think that, we have a core of guys that we expect to do well, even if they don't, have a great beginning of the season just with the history and how they've pitched in their careers here. But there's some guys, there's a dogfight there for probably a couple spots, and a lot of it's going to depend on how guys perform in the next couple of weeks, and we take into consideration how they did in the fall and then how they've been able to continue to grow and get better over the off season. And it should be interesting. Some guys started to separate themselves this week, and we'll probably have three or four more inter squads before we leave, and that'll be a good opportunity for them to separate themselves.
Dan Bertolini, he is the manager of the YSU baseball team, joining me as he does every Tuesday at this time on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Obviously, one thing that I've learned in my many, many travels in baseball, you get a 4-game weekend series and you have a roster. Most, if not all of those guys, if they're healthy, they're going to be taking part in some way, shape, or form during the 4 games. Now, you may not play all 4 games, especially if you're a pitcher, but there's a high probability that you're going to use the entire 27-man roster in a 4-game series.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially when you're playing doubleheaders, guys get tired. You're going to use multiple catchers. You're gonna, and we're a talented group, so we want everyone to get some experience and play. So it's going to be, it's going to be exciting, and that's the best part of the managing is really trying to manage those guys and put them in the best spots to win, and give your team the best opportunity to win baseball games. So yeah, and from a pitching side, all those guys are going to get opportunities at some point throughout the weekend. You hope your Friday and Saturday starters can go deep in the games, and then you have your whole entire staff pretty much to compete the rest of the weekend.
Dan, there's a lot of things to be said about the utility players, and obviously when you get into a 27-man roster, the guys that are flexible in terms of the everyday players who can play the infield, multiple positions in the infield, multiple positions in the outfield. They're the jack of all trades, if you will. Those are the guys that you definitely want to have when you start piecing together that roster, because, God forbid someone were to get hurt. One of the mainstays, you have this jack of all trades type of player that's right there to play whatever position you need. How many of those guys fit that bill where they're the Swiss Army knife?
Really, most of them. That's one thing that we try to do when we recruit. We want guys that are athletic, that can play multiple positions. Blaze Glenn was an all-conference right fielder and then was an all-conference third baseman for us. I think Jeff Whaler was an all-conference shortstop his freshman year, and he was an all-conference left fielder, and then he would be, and I'm sure he will be, an all-conference second baseman for us. So he can play multiple positions. Braden O'Shaughnessy can play really all 4 of the infield spots. Trey Law is another guy. He plays, all the infield spots, all the middle guys, and he can play third. So there's some versatility there. All those infielders can kind of go out and play the outfield if we need them to. So the outfield we don't have as much. Your outfielders probably aren't gonna play the infield very often, but some of those guys could do it if we needed to. But for the most part, our infielders are going to be kind of those Swiss utility guys that we can move around.
Dan Bertolini joining me on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. What can you tell us about Troy? What kind of a baseball team is this team? Where are they out of? Are they the Sun Belt Conference, Skip?
Yeah, they're in the Sun Belt Conference. They've been a very good program for a long time. They have a real nice facility that we're fortunate to get a chance to play at. I think if I want to say in collegiate or in D1 baseball, they were picked to finish like third. I think on their side of the Sun Belt, they got a 2-tier conference. You know, they got a good JUCO arm that they brought in from one of the Florida junior colleges. I can't remember exactly. Miller, he's a left-handed, supposed to be a high draft pick. And they have, their Friday guy last year got drafted, who was a phenomenal arm. But they're going to be pretty old. They got a lot of returning players, so it should be interesting. It'll be a great. It's going to be a great competition for us. And I'd say we always play good competition. Whether it's, I think it's going to be very similar to the situation we went into last year at Houston. A veteran team with some high expectations, and should make for some great baseball on the weekend.
Dan, when you guys make the trip south this year, you're going to head to Alabama and Louisiana. Everyone just assumes, oh, well, if you're going to head down south, you're going to be in the 70s, in the 80s. That's not necessarily the case. There are times when you're in the 50s. Now, that's a lot better than where we are, but you don't necessarily get great weather per se.
No, I mean, it's going to be a lot better than it is here, but, you feel really good about Louisiana. I think their average temperature that time of year is in the 70s. So if you get a little slightly above average, you could be playing games in the 80s, which is pretty nice. But I think in Troy, we should probably see, mid 60s, potentially low 70s, depending on the sort of, when you're a baseball coach, you got to be a meteorologist as well. But no, I mean, there's chances that you could play. I remember my second year, we went to Belmont. We practiced on Thursday night. It was 72 degrees, and the wind kicked up, and we started the next day. It was 41 when we started the game, and that was in, they're right outside of Nashville. So you just don't know. It's kind of a crapshoot unless you're really down south in the southern states.
Obviously, like this year with all of the winter sports, the NCAA in 2020 gave the baseball teams a mulligan. The players who were playing baseball, specifically the seniors, gave them a mulligan. How many of the seniors took advantage of that, and how many of them are back as a member of the Youngstown State Penguins? Did you lose anyone, Coach?
As far as our seniors go, we actually didn't lose any of them, so we were very fortunate. We have I will say, they're a great senior class. I mean, those are guys you want back as part of your program. A lot of these guys, Joel Hake and Colin Floyd have been here longer than I have, so this means a lot to them. They could have graduated. I mean, they're both going to have their master's degrees. Joel's going to have a master's degree in nursing. So it means a lot to them. They could have moved on and really started their careers, but instead they decided to come back and they're the leaders of our program. We have Nick Caruso is back. He's going to be our starting catcher. Blaze Glenn's back. He's an all-conference guy. Gary Clift is back as well. And we had Zach Minnie. Unfortunately, Zach had an arm injury that kind of ended his playing career, but still part of our program.
Dan, when you look at the freshmen that you recruited from the class of 2020, and they're going to be making their first go-around in college baseball, how important is it for the seniors to essentially get these kids up to speed and remind them, hey, this ain't high school, this is college, and we go about things a little differently?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been an eye-opening experience. It's always like that for freshmen. Right now, Chase Franken is our only freshman position player, and it is difficult because you don't have anyone else in your class to kind of look at, and, kind of make mistakes together. or kind of ease into it. I mean, a lot of our upper guys are upperclassmen, and it does make it a tough situation, but also a good situation because it's very easy to learn from those guys that are in front of you. As far as we didn't bring in a ton of freshmen this year to really, because of the backlog we had and our seniors coming back and no one leaving or graduating. I think we only had 3 players from last year's team that aren't part of our program anymore. So, I think we had, I don't know, some 32 returning players. So it does make it a little challenging, but this is the first time in my time here that we haven't had to rely, or we're probably not going to have to rely much on freshmen. Whether them being they're going to have opportunities to play, but or pitch, but they're not going to have the workload that they've had in the previous few years that we've had.
Is it an opportunity where some of these kids could get redshirted and you still get an opportunity to play? Because I think there's you can't go above a certain percentage of games played. So you can play, albeit very limited. But is there an opportunity that is in existence where you could redshirt someone, not necessarily freshmen, but redshirt some players and say, we really like your talent, we like your ability, and we want to keep you for an extra year if at all possible?
Yeah, and unfortunately in baseball, if you get one inning or one at bat, you're done for it counts as a year. So you have to be really careful with guys that you think are potential redshirts, because you don't want to waste a year on getting eliminated at bats. So I do believe there will be opportunities for a couple guys to probably redshirt this year, and that's a good thing. Just from a development standpoint, from a maturity standpoint, a lot of times guys need that, and then it helps us with our depth. When you can get a guy to stay for 5 years. You're just that much more mature when you graduate, after your 5th year, and then, the expectation levels for you have changed. So I do think there'll be some guys that redshirt. That's part of college athletics. And, the guys that really take advantage of it, it can be a huge step forward for them to really propel themselves into next season.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity where you can still be very much with the team and taking involved in practicing with the team. If I'm understanding this correctly, and you are with the team, but you're not playing in any games. But that's you're still getting all of the practices in.
Oh yeah, 100%. You're doing everything that everyone else would be doing, except for you just might not be playing on the weekends. But, that gives you opportunities to continue. You can really push yourself in the weight room. A lot of times guys at redshirt, need to get into that weight room, need to get more physical to be able to help us on the field. So it's a good opportunity for them to, continue to push themselves. They don't have to worry about trying to play on the weekends. They're not traveling as much, so they can really focus on their academics. Sometimes that's part of it. We want guys to really excel in the classroom. And sometimes there's just guys in front of you that are just better than they can help us. And you can learn from them. You can watch them. You can watch the way they play, watch the way they prepare. A lot of times that's the separator is, just the young guys don't prepare quite like the older guys do, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically. So you can learn a lot, when you have that opportunity to redshirt.
You brought up something that has always been an interesting subject, and I grew up in an era where, the tail end of this era, where weightlifting was taboo. You essentially were told if you played ball in the 50s and 60s and into the 70s, don't lift any weights. You don't want to tighten your body up to where you get oblique injuries or the nagging injuries that will cost you some games and then cost you multiple games if you've injured certain areas. And we lost arguably one of the greatest in Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron made his career by never lifting weights. He would always stay in shape, but he was not a guy that lifted weights. He was in that era where weightlifting was taboo. And yet in today, it's a complete 180. You do have guys that are lifting weights. Now it's become quite essential to lift weights. Why the change, and where did this start? And I mean, it's been around for a while, but for lack of a better question, why the change now, Skip?
Well, I think we just understand more about the human body now than we did, 40, 50 years ago. So we've made a lot of advances in our strength training and in the way we monitor our players. We kind of understand the functional movement patterns a lot better. And it was something that, we saw guys, bodybuilding and people, associate weightlifting with bodybuilding. And that's not even remotely close to the case. Our our strength coaches do a fantastic job preparing our guys. It's important that you continue to, we have guys that really push themselves even on game days. I mean, our guys will lift on game days or on Saturdays, prior to the game. All of our guys do an activation lift in the mornings to get their bodies moving and get themselves moving around. And we leave it individualized a little bit for those. Some guys feel really comfortable and really want to get after it on game day. Some guys feel a little bit, their bodies don't react quite as well to strength training. They're a little bit more sore, so they might, not do as much. But all of them are doing something to get their bodies prepared. And I think, the length of the season, the travel, the guys in the big leagues are physical. That's the separator. They are physical people. And if you want to get there, you need to get on that level. And that's the difference between high school and college guys. I mean, you look at the high school guys, they can come in and compete right away. They're physical. They've been in the weight room. They're not physically immature. So I think that's a big factor of, strength is speed. Strength is power. And, our guys want to try to get there and stay on that, stay on that program as long as we can. Because the minute you take, a month or two off, you're back to square one.
Well, and the other thing that's always been interesting, and I caught the tail end of it when I was in minor league baseball, you have guys that will go to health clubs. In minor league ball, the day of the game, well, that morning after you've played a night game, that morning, mid-morning mainly, about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, the bus will leave. They'll go to the gym, and these guys will get their workout in. They'll go back to the hotel. You take a shower, eat some lunch, and then you'll head to the ballpark, depending on what time the game starts. But it's the same thing in college as well. And now the difference is, where do you guys work out when you're in? Like the 4-game series against Troy, are you guys going to be able to work out at the Troy University, or do you have to go to a health club?
Well, typically, on normal years, we're able to get workouts in on the campuses when we travel. So if we were at Troy, typical year, we'd be able to get in their weight room at some point, whether it's in the morning or, most of the time in the mornings, we're able to go over there and get a workout in on Friday and Saturday. But due to COVID, I doubt I don't think we're going to be able to use their facilities just with everything else going on. But yeah, we've been to Planet Fitness. We've gone, we've gone to, Gold's Gym, whatever. We try to find places. A lot of times we try to find hotels that we're staying in that have weight rooms or, some workout equipment that's better than, better than nothing. So we'll bring some stuff with us. We'll bring some bands and some med balls and stuff that we can use if we have to in the hotel or out in the parking lot or wherever we can, at least get some things done in to maintain some strength and get some work in.
Yeah, it's certainly not, we're going to sleep, we're going to get up, we're going to go get the hotel breakfast, and then we're just going to patiently wait and play video games until game time. Now, there's a lot more to life on the road now. Yeah.
You don't want your guys. Do I think a nap at some point during the day is important if you have time? Yeah, I think sleeping is important. If you can catch an hour, 45 minutes throughout the day before the game. But if you lay around too much during the day, you're going to be tired and sluggish. You need to get that blood flowing. You need to get that body moving, and that's what we try to do during the days on the road.
All right, Dan, what's on the schedule between now and when you guys leave? I'm assuming you guys leave on Thursday, February the 18th?
That's correct, yeah. We'll practice. We practice Tuesday through Sunday every week. Typically on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we'll inter-squad scrimmage. And then today through Thursday, the pitchers that threw this weekend, I think the guys that threw Saturday are spaced out today and tomorrow with some bullpens. Guys that threw Sunday will throw on Thursday. And then, we'll get that going. We'll have some team practice, some situational work. We'll do some live stuff and just try to get ourselves prepared. We'd take what we learned in the scrimmage and kind of, what we saw, what we need to work on. We'll continue to work on that throughout the week, those individual skills, and then hopefully it translates into the weekend, get better, figure out what we need to work on, and then move forward going into opening weekend.
On days like today where there's snow on the ground, it's good to have the Watts Center.
Yeah, I would be in the Watts right now, but the band's in there playing. So we're hitting in the cages, but the band's going, so you wouldn't be able to hear me if I was in there getting ready for football season, which is only right around the corner.
Hey, listen, that's as long as they're playing the fight song, that's all that matters. We can hear you through the YSU fight song.
It's pretty loud in there.
Oh yeah, get everyone fired up. Hey Dan, always a pleasure. Look forward to catching up with you on Tuesday.
Sounds great. Good talking to you, Ron.
Yeah, all right, see you. Dan Bertolini, he is the manager of the YSU Penguins, and 2 weeks from Thursday, they take a flight down to Troy, Alabama. And I was looking at the weather forecast, and right now it's in the low 50s. And I never trust weather forecast till about 2 or 3 days before the actual day, because so many things can go wrong or so many things can go right. But the long range forecast was low to mid 60s for a high. Not bad. That's not bad. Look, I used to live. Those who have heard this before, I lived in Jackson, Tennessee, which is north, about 4 hours north, give or take an hour, about 4 hours north of Troy, Alabama. I think it's closer to 5 hours north of Troy, Alabama. And Jackson in February used to be in the low mid 50s for a high. It would get cold at nighttime. It would be in the upper mid upper 30s, and every once in a while you'd get the 4-letter S word, which they don't have snow plows down there, so that was kind of fun. Watching the people from the South who have no idea what snow is driving in that stuff. I've often said that should be a Winter Olympic sport. Southern drivers driving in the snow should be a Winter Olympic sport. It really should be, because it's hilarious to watch these people try to drive their car in the wintertime when there's snow on the ground. It's kind of hilarious, and it's also kind of dangerous, but it's hilarious as well. All right, 330-886-0813. We're back in a bit. Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown.
WRS Wealth Advisors is the area's premier wealth and retirement specialist. With our combined 70 years experience and comprehensive wealth strategy, we assist our clients attain their goals. Call 330-965-0370 to learn more about our individual and corporate financial planning services, or visit WRSWealthAdvisors.com. Good luck, athletes!
Hi everyone, this is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN.
Ah, the details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
For heating, cooling, and indoor air quality, the Mahoning Valley trusts MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning, offering worry-free repair, service, and installation. Call MP Vivo today for a free estimate.
MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. We're your energy-efficient experts.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
News doesn't stop after the sun goes down. Sometimes you just have to hustle to get it. At 21 News, no matter how far it is, no matter what it takes to get there, we're working to bring you the best stories and the freshest content at 11 p.m. with the context and clarity that makes it worth staying up for, no matter what time it is. 21 News at 11 with me, Aaron Simonek, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 11, news that's worth your time.
Welcome back to a Tuesday edition of Running Points presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. If you're in the market for a brand new or slightly used automobile, you certainly want to check out the good folks at Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. And certainly before you make that commitment, and it is a commitment, so you're going to be spending a lot of money on a new car or a slightly used car. I mean, car prices are pretty expensive, so you're going to be making a pretty strong commitment here. And before you do that, before you spend that hard-earned money of yours, you owe it to yourself to go over to Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. They have a great sales department, a fantastic finance department, and a terrific service department. Add it all up, it's a tremendous car dealership. Greenwood Chevrolet, Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Let's get to the phone lines. Emmanuel, you're on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. What's going on, kid?
How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Well, as always, you have some of the greatest interviews I've ever heard, and I've always, and I've told you before, on air and off the air, that I defer to the skipper. He's a great coach, great interview, great father. He's just a good old guy.
Yeah.
But I would like to talk to him, or if, find out. I don't know if he could say this, but I wonder when he's recruiting high school players, right? When he's recruiting pitchers, I wonder, do we look for a thrower or a pitcher? There's a difference.
Oh, there is. There's a huge difference between the two. I mean, nowadays, if you're a Division I school, you're going to be recruiting someone who throws at the minimum 90 miles an hour as far as a fastball is concerned. If you're not throwing 90, you better have a really, really good slider or curveball or a really, really good changeup. Otherwise, you're not getting a D1 scholarship.
And you're going to have to have a good location, and good control of your pitch.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I would even ratchet it up to a top 20 type of school. Look, I'm very good friends with pitching coach at Louisiana State University, a team that Youngstown State will see the second weekend. Alan Dunn and I go back to our days when he was the pitching coach for the Cubs AA team, and I broadcast their games for 5 or 6 years. He has told me flat out, we don't look at anybody that doesn't have a fastball in the low to mid-90s. We won't look at that person unless they have an unbelievable off-speed pitch or an unbelievable changeup. They're not looking at anybody for Louisiana State in terms of a baseball scholarship unless that person throws minimum low to mid 90s for their fastball.
Okay, and you were talking about baseball, right?
Yeah.
I think baseball has been on a downward slide for a while. It's just speeding up now.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
I think any sport or anything, whether it's I don't care if it's a factory or whatever, if you don't have the youth coming, down the pipe, you're not going to last. And it's, I can remember when you was a young man, about 100 years ago. I was 150 for me, but what I'm saying is, who were your favorite players? Who was your favorite catcher? Who was your favorite first baseman? Who were your favorite players?
Oh God, Johnny Bench was my favorite catcher. There's no two ways about that. Obviously I was a huge Indians fan and still am. So Andre Thornton is my favorite Indians player of all time. He's right up there. I'm also a Pirates fan. So Stargell, he was one of my favorite players. Clemente is my all-time favorite player, period. I saw some really good players.
What I'm trying to tell you is this, right? I love seeing, maybe because of his name, but I was a big guy, and I like Boot Powell. I loved him.
Yeah, Boot Powell was good. And I love Johnny Bench, Mickey Mantle, Clemente was favorite, Parker and those guys. But we're talking about people, and I'm trying to be nice, right? We're talking about people who look like me and you. So when we watched the game, we said, "Man, I can do that." You turn it, you turn it on, and it's not. Well, you just turn it on, and you don't have the Mickey Mantles and the Boot Powells and those guys. There's nothing wrong with the players now, but we don't have a connection with them. We don't see them coming out of college. We don't hear about them in high school. You know what I mean? Boom, they show up on the picture, man. They show up on the scene, hitting 40 home runs and 100 RBIs. Yeah,
which is great. But we haven't followed that guy.
Yeah, but you're two things. Number one, we were kids. You didn't have free agency. Free agency opened up the can of worms of, okay, now this player is no longer going to be associated with one team for his entire career unless the ownership decides to trade him. Up until 1976, you had the promise that whoever was signed by your favorite team, unless that player retires or unless the organization traded that player away, that player was guaranteed to be on your team from the start of his career to the end of his career, because free agency was not something that Major League Baseball dealt with. And in 1976, thanks to Marvin Miller, the players' union finally got their way, and free agency became part of the game. Now, you have guys that they'll sign a 5-year contract, and unless they're traded for those 5 years, they're going to be on your team. But there's no guarantee that player is going to remain with your team. If he's a free agent, well, he can go anywhere he wants to go because he's earned that right. I think that's part of what has changed, part of the climate. The other part of the climate that I think has changed, Emmanuel, and this I have banged on this drum for a number of years. Major League Baseball has done a piss-poor job of marketing itself. And I look no further in terms of marketing its youth. I look no further than the time in which we were growing up. Now, you're a little older than I am, and that's okay. But you grew up in an era, and I grew up in an era, where day games in the postseason were part of the culture of Major League Baseball. World Series games that were played in the daytime were part of the culture. I remember many a days when I was growing up in Leetonia, our elementary school and junior high school was 500, 600 yards away from the house that I grew up in. So when school was over, I dead sprint as fast as I could go, which wasn't very fast. Some things never change.
I've seen your 40s, man. I got a copy of it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't very good when I was growing up. Let's just put it that way. So I would get home as fast as I could, and I would be able to watch a World Series game, or I would be able to watch a divisional playoff game. The game would start, while I was in school, and there are times, I'll freely admit this now, when I'd have a transistor radio and I had an earpiece and I was listening to the game. The hell with what the teacher was trying to teach me. Screw that crap. I'm listening to my baseball game, which is one of the reasons why I sucked at school, neither here nor there. But I would run home and I would watch daytime baseball. I would watch the World Series being played in the daytime. It was part of the culture, part of what was baseball. I remember this as if it were yesterday. Game 7 of the 1971 World Series was played on a Sunday afternoon. The game started at 1 o'clock. NBC, which at the time used to broadcast games for the AFC, and prior to 1970, the old AFL used to have their games on Sundays on NBC. This is how popular and how big Major League Baseball was. Game 7 of the 1971 World Series. The game was set to start a little after 1 o'clock in Baltimore. Do you realize that the National Football League, knowing that Game 7 of the World Series was to be played at 1 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, the National Football League, the biggest sport right now in America, basically said to Major League Baseball, you got the 1 o'clock stage. We're going to put all our AFC games on at 4 o'clock. There is no way in hell the National Football League would do this today. And that's because the National Football League owns the spotlight. 50 years ago, they didn't own the spotlight. Major League Baseball owned that spotlight. And one of the reasons why Major League Baseball owned that spotlight was because World Series games were played in a time in which all of the kids could watch every last inning of every last game. The bottom line in my diatribe that I've been banging on for the last 5+ years, we have lost at least 2 generations of kids by starting games at nighttime. Now, obviously, I understand why Major League Baseball starts their World Series games at nighttime. It's all about the money.
Why?
I get that. It's all about the money.
Why?
It's all about being on prime time.
Well, it's not prime time out west.
No, you're right. But 85% of the people living in the United States live in either the Eastern time zone or the Central time zone, and it makes perfect sense. However, long term, and I had been saying this for years, long term, Major League Baseball is doing insane amounts of damage because you haven't marketed this sport, and now you have done pissed off two generations worth of kids who are now adults in their 30s and in their 40s, and now you wonder why the game of baseball has become essentially a regional game. There's your reason.
Now, I always thought that my dad was the man. I always thought that from day one. But when he kept me home from school on a Tuesday, we went up to the old stadium and watched a doubleheader, the Indians game. That's when I knew he was the man. That's when I knew he loved his son.
Oh, there's something great about that.
I don't believe that they marked me absent that day when I come back and told them I went to the game.
There was something really cool about stuff like that. Now, look, I mean, I understand. It's all about the money. It's all about the Benjamin. It's all about getting as much money as humanly possible. Okay, I get that. But you better understand long term, those decision makers that you're hoping to get all those bucks, those decision makers 20 and 30 years ago were kids. And do you think those kids in the Eastern and Central time zone were watching a World Series when your times were at nighttime and it was the night before a school day? And those kids were in bed.
My dad was the man, but my mom ran everything. Now she would let me go to a baseball game in the afternoon, but she's not going to let me stay up at 11 o'clock at night. You're going to bed, boy.
Exactly. I mean, look. The bottom line, unless your team is playing in a World Series, I would say a good chunk, a high majority chunk of kids, they didn't get to see games from start to finish, and that's where, again, when we were growing up. You had day games. Now, not all of the games were day games. Look, I mean, the first time a nighttime World Series game took place, Game 3, 1971 World Series. It was the first time in Major League Baseball history that they decided to play a World Series game at night. It was in Pittsburgh. And then slowly but surely in the 70s, they started putting 2 games at night. Then they started going 3 games at night, and now we've flipped it to where there are no day games in the World Series. Well, that's all well and good if you want to go by ratings and money and whatnot, but I'll repeat what I said. The decision makers that are making that decision right now, they remember days in which there were World Series games. They're still baseball fans. But there are guys now that are in their 40s and guys that are in their 30s who never had that opportunity to see baseball, World Series games at daytime. So unless their team, if they were living in the Eastern time zone or the Central time zone and their team wasn't in the World Series, I'll guarantee you most, if not all of those kids did not see a World Series from start to finish. And because of that, they're not a baseball fan because you didn't get to see the grandest game on the grandest stage. Say what you will about the National Football League. What they have always done is made damn sure, double dog damn sure, that their Super Bowl game is played in a time period in which every single person, even the kids, can watch this game from the start to the finish, and nobody has to go to bed knowing they got school the next night because the game is over long before mom and dad put their kid to bed.
Yeah, and and people didn't even watch football when you ask them what they're going to do. And I'm going to Disneyland. But another thing, too, real quick. I was reading an article by Jerome Bettis, and he said it better than me. Maybe I'm looking at this wrong. Maybe Ben's not done. Maybe Ben needs to work on his mechanics. He's saying that Ben still has it, but since he came back, he has a different throwing motion, and his mechanics are bad. Like I said about Josh Allen last year, his mechanics got better now. But you think that could be Ben's problem?
Well, I mean, he did have elbow surgery, so he might have different mechanics. I honestly never looked. I honestly never looked to see if his mechanics had changed at all.
Well, to me, it does. I told you before, he's not releasing the ball as high as he normally does.
Okay.
And which caused the ball to go high. When you throw it,
yeah,
it goes high.
Yeah.
And it also has to do with his footing. Because you remember he also hurt his leg when he hurt his arm, and he was limping around there for a while. Remember that same game?
Yeah.
So I think if he gets him a trainer, right, and somebody a good quarterback coach, which I think we have one now, Canada. I think he's going to work with them.
Well, Canada's your offensive coordinator now. I
know, but he's running stuff. He's going to make sure that somebody's there to help Ben.
Yeah.
If he don't, trust me, he won't be there. So you know what? Maybe Ben might be worth that $41 million. I don't know. I mean, I look at it. You can change a person's mechanics. You just like in baseball. You can change your pitcher's mechanics. If you watch a pitcher when in Major League Baseball, when he first starts, when he's like 23, 24, and if he lasts at 35 to 37 years old, he has a different mechanics in his pitching, doesn't he?
At times. I mean, it depends on whether or not he's been hurt. It depends on if he's lost velocity, if he has to reinvent himself. Yeah, I mean, you could fine-tune a couple of things, change a couple of things, and have different results going about it a different way. You could have the same results going about it a different way. Yeah, it's, especially if a guy has lost some zip on his fastball and he has to reinvent himself, sure.
Well, you very seldom hear that about an NFL quarterback. They just say you don't have it anymore.
Well, sometimes they don't have it because they've been hit so damn hard or they've been hit so damn often they start hearing stuff. I mean, Tim Couch is a great example. I mean, Tim Couch was ruined by the Cleveland Browns, not because of what Tim Couch didn't have and didn't bring to the table. Tim Couch would have been a damn good quarterback anywhere else. He went to Cleveland, and unfortunately, Cleveland made this mistake. They didn't have an offensive line in front of him. Cleveland's biggest mistake when they did their expansion draft, when they got back into the NFL in 1999, their biggest mistake was taking Tim Couch. Not because Tim Couch wasn't a great college football player. He was. And he would have been a franchise quarterback had he gone to a team that actually had an offensive line. The Browns' biggest mistake was you did not start from the line and then move out. I mean, your team was going to suck. Why have your franchise quarterback now? You should have worked on improving your offensive and defensive line first,
You want to know why? You want to know why? It's all about the Benjamins. They signed Couch, and then they sold a whole bunch of tickets.
Well, look, they were going to, Emmanuel, they were going to sell tickets anyway because the people in Cleveland were starved for football after Modell moved the team to Baltimore. I mean, they were going to sell tickets anyway. They went about that, and they literally paid for it for about 20 years by screwing it up from the get-go. And they literally paid for that. They sat back and said, well, we don't have any – we're trying to find a franchise quarterback. Well, you're trying to find a franchise quarterback because you never had an offensive line. And then when you did get an offensive line, then you started picking idiots for quarterbacks.
Well, I'm glad of that because as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, we squeezed in 2 Super Bowls. So I hope they do it again for the next 18 years.
Yeah, I mean, look, they now have some stuff in order. I think the Browns have finally, like a blind squirrel, they finally found a nut, and I think the Browns are in pretty good shape now. So
One more last thing. This morning at 11:30, I was up in Chardon Center.
Yeah.
And about 1 o'clock, I was in Greenville, PA. I want to tell you, man, these roads out here are outstanding, clear and everything.
Yeah, Greenville's a great city. I love Greenville, and they do a nice job with the roads. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, I tell you why I was out there some other time. Okay, thanks for taking my call, my brother.
Brother, be good.
Later.
All right, see ya. 330-886-0813, the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Open for business. You're going to take a time out on the other end. We got the basketball schedule for tonight. I got a girls basketball game, a bunch of boys basketball games, some really good boys basketball games coming up tonight. We'll get you the schedule. It's coming up in a bit. It's a Tuesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown.
New things happen all day. Some are good, some not so good. In today's complicated world, while you're busy working, playing, and living life, we're busy helping you make sense of the day's news. And there's only one place where it comes together with clarity, context, and accountability. It's 21 News at 6 with me, Madison Tromler, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 6. It's what the day's news really means to you.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Hi, this is Jim Myers with Myers Family Insurance, your local Medicare and retirement resource. We're excited to have sports back. Whether you're on the field or cheering from the stands, sports unifies communities and brings hope for the future. We're all one team working together. At Myers Family Insurance, we know the importance of a great team.
our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is October 15th through December 7th. Now's the time to make sure your plan continues to meet your needs for the upcoming year.
Call today.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Klim from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Baird Brothers remains your source for fine hardwood products. For the time being, we're open for customer pickup only on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturday from 9 a.m. till noon. Place your order online at bairdbrothers.com. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
The 4M Company, being an architect and construction manager for over 40 years, has had the opportunity to use many different electrical businesses for our projects. The depth, quality, and knowledge and attention to detail displayed by Dickey Electric makes them stand out above all the rest.
For state-of-the-art expertise and a timeless commitment to our customers, contact Joe Dickey Electric. We are everything electrical.
I went to Greenwood Chevrolet because I was really interested in looking at the tracks.
Because I wanted my dream truck.
Because I've been going there for 20 years. I think whenever we go there, whatever car we're looking for, they have tremendous inventory.
If you're looking for people who care about you, Greenwood is the place to go.
You know, it's like family there. The girls know me in service. It's Miss Kim in the Tahoe.
I'm really happy that I went
to Greenwood Chevrolet.
Because they really went
the extra mile for me.
Now we're going the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Local teams are heating up the hardwoods, and you can keep up with all the action on and off the court with Five Guys Hoop News all season long on 21 Sports.
Speaking of hoop news, let's get to the schedule for tonight before we get on out of here. One girls basketball game, and it should be a doozy. Warren JFK will take a trip down to Columbiana as the JFK girls will take on Heartland Christian. That is a 5 o'clock start. Boys basketball, a couple of games that will start this afternoon. JFK boys will go to Waterloo. That is a 5:30 start. 6 o'clock start, varsity only. Girard will take a trip to South Range as they take on the South Range Raiders. Here are your 7 o'clock games. That means the JV games will get underway at 5:30. So game time for the varsity, give or take a couple of minutes before or after 7 o'clock. Sometimes it may start right on the screws at 7 o'clock. Your parochial battle, the Holy War, Part 2. Ursuline will travel to Cardinal Mooney. This time they're going to go to the south end of town. About a week or so ago, Cardinal Mooney took the trip to Wick Avenue on the north end of town. This time it's going to be the Ursuline kids taking a trip down to the south end of Youngstown. Ursuline is at Cardinal Mooney. Beaver Local will travel to Edison. McDonald will take a trip to Columbiana as they take on Heartland Christian. Again, the girls' game against JFK will start at 5 o'clock. The Heartland boys are home to McDonald. That game starts at 7 o'clock. That'll be an interesting test for McDonald. Heartland Christian, pretty solid Division IV program. Mineral Ridge is at Jackson Milton. Champion at LeBray. That should be a dang good basketball game from LeBray tonight. Let's see. We got Hubbard at Lakeview in a Northeast 8 contest. Wellsville is at Lisbon, so they'll travel a little north to Lisbon in an EOAC matchup. And finally, in the MVAC gray tier, this will be a good game. Brookfield travels to Newton Falls to take on the Tigers. On Friday night, Newton Falls will come down to Crestview to take on the Crestview boys, and that could be a really entertaining game as well. All right, so those are the games on the network tonight, and hopefully you will go to ysnlive.com, check out your favorite basketball team, and of course, you don't have to pay a dime thanks to the good people at WRS Wealth Advisors. They are the sponsor of high school basketball on ysnlive.com. DJ and the fellas coming up next. They'll take you through the 3 o'clock hour on this Tuesday edition of Power Hour. That is coming up in a matter of moments. Make it a great rest of your Tuesday, everyone. We're back tomorrow. Anthony and I will be on from noon to 3 tomorrow. Running Point on YS.